Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the airdrop market. Lots of profitable airdrops happening and potentially on the horizon too. Loaded up for discussion today, we have Magic Eden Binance listing announced. The pre-markets are trading up to $6. We'll discuss that in a lot more detail and provide the information that you need there. Got the Movement Labs launch Move price reaching $11 billion FTV. We touched on it briefly yesterday for a pullback just beneath $10 billion now. That was a big entrance into the market. And also in general, big liquidations in the crypto markets yesterday as the market corrected down. We'll touch on that briefly. The big flush out we had yesterday. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs and a discussion on general market rotations, where liquidity is flowing, where our attention is going. So stay tuned for that today. I have in the co-host seats Legendary, the #1 button clicker in the NFT world, and the crypto czar of Dubai, Rahim, back with us every Tuesday. Love to have him with us. Just a reminder, friends, before we get into it, nothing that we say here is financial advice, because we don't know anything for sure. No matter how high the titles we give ourselves with the best button clickers and crypto czars, we ultimately don't know what's going to happen. So please do your own research and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Rahim, it's Tuesday. It's the 10th of December. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
So far, so good, man. It's an exciting week. A lot happening in the space. A lot happening IRL in Dubai. So I'm excited. I'm excited for us to roll today.
Great to have you with us. You were giving us some pretty interesting info before the show. Wanted to maybe open that up as we start off, just before we get into the main stuff today. There's obviously a Bitcoin conference going on in Dubai and Abu Dhabi at the moment. How's that been? What are you hearing on the ground? What's the atmosphere like? What are you experiencing?
So it's a pretty big week in Abu Dhabi this week. Actually, there is the Abu Dhabi Finance Week, which is interesting. Why Bitcoin MENA ended up happening in the same week. So it seems like they are revolving around bringing institutional eyes to Bitcoin. And it was interesting because I went to the event with the idea of like learning more about like L2s and people building on Bitcoin. But it was interesting to see that a lot of the people over there were pretty much institutional. We saw like a lot of government people. Everyone is talking about mining mostly. And the two things that was interesting to hear a lot, to be honest, actually, was a lot of talk on yield for Bitcoin and building security protocols to make that safer and safer. So that was like an interesting thing to hear. But yeah, overall, I was a bit intrigued how there was less talk of ruins. But there's another conference actually this week on Wednesday called Mempool, which is again a Bitcoin related event. And I'm actually I'm moderating a panel with Murad. And this is the first time I feel like he'll be talking on Bitcoin runes and memes on Bitcoin. So that's something we haven't seen in this space. So I'm excited to hear his talks. But yeah, it's good.
That'd be very exciting. My honest reaction to watching you speak about the government, it was like almost disgust in your face, Rahim. You're like, it was, it's like, I wanted to learn about these ordinals, wanted to get into those culture. I know you like your culture coins. But it was all these government officials, all of these institutions buying all the damn Bitcoin. You said there's a lot of miner chat as well, right? Just focused on accumulating the coins.
Yeah, I mean, like the discuss was more because I ended up putting so much effort going all the way to Abu Dhabi, sticking around for a couple of hours. It was, and otherwise the conference is great in its own way.
Love it. That's pretty exciting about the convo with Murad. You're going to have to fill us in on that when you're back with us next week. Excited for that. Legendary, how are things with you? Your side, checking in. What buttons you clicking at the moment? Are you happy? All happy your side?
Very happy on my end. I remember when I was flying back from Japan, I was flying via Abu Dhabi, and on Etihad, they had the ads for the Finance Week. And I thought it had the best slogan ever. And the slogan was, it's the capital of capital, which makes perfect sense.
I like it. That's a great slogan. Great slogan. Right. Let's get into the show. Starting with the price action as always. And then, we've got the main headlines to come after. We've got the Magic Eden stuff, Movement Labs, and the big liquidations happening. So let's start with the price action. We've got Bitcoin down just 1% now to 97K. We had ETH down almost 3% to 3.7, and Solana down around 5%, down as low as $216. On the meme coin side of things, things are a little bit more red. Got Dogecoin down 5% back to 40 cents. Got SHIB down 8%. Pepe is one of the only outperformers, still up a couple of percent on the 24 hours, up 24% on 7 days. Everything else, most things are red on that time horizon. WIF's down 12%, Bonks down 11%, Mogs down 8%, PopCat's down 13%, down to 115. That's pretty low for PopCat, for example. So very red on the meme coin side of things. SPX, Morad coin up 5%, AI16Z also up 20%, bucking the general trend. AI coin GOAT down another 14%, back down to 57 cents. So a lot of red on the meme coin side.
One quick sentence, sorry for jumping in. One quick sentence on the meme side of things with Pepe. Elon Musk's pinned post now is a bunch of Pepes, because it highlights that now with Grok, the image generating AI, with the AI from X, you can also generate memes. And someone did that, generated a bunch of Pepes. Elon Musk reposted that and pinned that to the top of his feed.
That is, of course, the reason why it's the only coin outperforming at the moment. Pretty outstanding. Getting into the headlines themselves, we've got Magic Eden Binance listing announced. The pre-market's trading up to $6 this morning. We've always mentioned, can't take the pre-market. We've got to take the pre-markets with a pinch of salt. It's not always going to come out that way. Often they are very optimistic. But we're going to break that down in a little bit more detail. Had one of the co-founders was speaking or tweeting about their broader vision. Rahim's going to break that down in just a little bit. Movement Labs launched Move, and the price reached as high as $11 billion yesterday before a pullback to 10. Legendary is going to break that down in a bit and why that's an interesting ecosystem. And then finally, big liquidations in crypto markets in general. Markets correct down. The Bonk guy shared that $1.41 billion in crypto longs have been liquidated in the last 24 hours, marking the largest long liquidation event since 2021. But I'm pretty sure people reported that literally like 3 days ago as well on the other wick down as well. So I don't know whether people are reporting this stuff necessarily accurately. The point being, there was, again, a lot of leverage built up in the system, which got wiped. So I get that people are very, very bullish, but if you keep getting that bullish, exchanges will come after your longs and liquidate. So that is what's happening at the moment. Some notable sales, CryptoPunk sale, it's kind of cool, eye patch one for 41.2 ETH, showing it on the screen for those people who are watching in. And, Pudgy Penguins are still going higher despite the crash yesterday. Seeing Pudgy Penguin Wizard selling for 24 ETH, Pudgy Penguin Fish Gold selling for 26.5. But from more general NFT market stuff, we'll go to Legendary now.
Exactly. And when we take a look at that, the Pudgy Penguin floor price is still on the move up very significantly. So sitting at 23 ETH. We also now have the pre-markets for Pengu coming in, obviously, as you just said, in relation with Magic Eden, even lower volume for Pengu. Pengu seems to be trading between 4 and 5 cents, up from 3.3 cents yesterday on Magic Eden, which then again, volume is way, way too low to make any kind of price prediction based on that, because it's under 100K. But based on that, based on the floor price ratio, that would put the Pengu airdrop at 100K if that were the price where it came out. So maybe also a bit of the reason why we still see the move upwards for the Penguins. On the other hand, apes are down 4%, sitting at an 18.9 ETH floor. Also now, for the first time in a while, that they're down over the last 7 days, down 8% over the last 7 days to be precise. Azukis are also down 3.5%, 6.8 ETH floor for them, but they're still up significantly over the last week, still up 24%. Milady is basically unchanged. From yesterday, they had their big dump after the cult token came out. They are now still sitting at a 5.15 ETH floor. Doodles are up. They're up 4%, 2.6 ETH floor for them. And one more collection I wanted to report on is Creeps. They are up quite significantly, actually. Up 27% over the last 24 hours, up 77% over the last 7 days, and currently sitting at a 2.35 ETH floor, coming dangerously close to the Doodles price floor at the moment.
Very interesting on the Creeps. Thanks for that Legendary, I was just checking in on the portal price as as it relates to Creeps. They're obviously kind of two connected ecosystems. Interestingly, the portal price, for the people who remember, obviously portal was this early investment people made kind of at the back end of last year, connected to the Creeps ecosystem, and it absolutely ripped. They did a big social engagement campaign, which annoyed a lot of people, but ultimately was very profitable for the people who participated. The price action of the token had actually been pretty diabolical. If you're being honest, it was very much down only for a very, very long period of time. I'm going to share it on the screen for the people who are watching in. This is not showing the whole graph for some reason. What's going on here? 1 year. Okay, here we go. There you go. So you can see the graph there kind of came out at $2, and then his just a slow or a fast descent down to as low as 30 cents, and it's just kind of pulled back. But it looks like the sellers are exhausted on that front. So I wondered whether the token price, which now recovered to 45 cents, although it's down 10% on the day, was as high as 55 cents 2 days ago, whether that was like correlated to the NFT in any way. But
fortunately, we have a Rune Lord in the YouTube comments providing a bit more context on that. Rune Lord is saying, full disclosure, they are a Portal angel investor and a Creeps well, but they are saying that Creeps are getting the Portal second airdrop, moving to Blur again on the 12th of December, so in 2 days. And on top of that, they supposedly get 3 more airdrops. So that also might be explaining some of the price action that we've seen over the last week and last day specifically.
Okay, yeah, that definitely does. I was not aware of there being a second airdrop going to Creeps, but similarly, was a Portal investor. Just kind of happy that the Portal price was going back up, which is kind of nice to see. So thanks for that, Rune Lord. Great knowledge there. Also on the hyperliquid ecosystem, Rune Lord's pretty knowledgeable. I appreciate you. Okay, that's a little bit on that. Getting to the rest of the Web3 roundup to get up to with everything else that's happening in the space. Before we get into the main headlines today, we've got the Russian State Duma deputy suggesting to the Russian finance minister to create a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I included this in the news today. It was a little bit of like almost like a Russian doll scenario where you kind of working through all these different characters to get to the real meat of the story here. Obviously, everyone is got the Bitcoin strategic reserve on their mind. And so anytime anyone political says anything to do with that, people are reporting that as news. I'd still take it with a pinch of salt at the moment. MicroStrategy announced another Bitcoin acquisition of $2.1 billion. That was for 21,550 Bitcoin. That was announced yesterday. Riot Bitcoin mining company announced a $575 million convertible note to buy Bitcoin. This was a worrying one that kind of got the timeline kind of adjacent to crypto, I guess. Google announced quantum computing development where a new chip can do in 5 minutes what current computers can only do in, I don't even know what number of years that is. If you can see it on the screen, it's more than 10 trillion. Legendary, do you want to have a go at that number?
Yeah, it's more time than the universe even has existed. I think it was 10 to the power of 21 or 24, but it was more time than the universe even exists by far more time than that.
Okay, so basically this new chip can do in 5 minutes what would ordinarily have taken a computer or chip to, it would take them that amount of time, that exponential amount of time to do. So huge advancement. And obviously the worry for crypto is, does this mean that private keys, seed phrases are in danger if you can crack the code for these types of things? I'm not in a position to answer that question. Maybe Legendary, you'll be able to speak to that in a moment, but I'll just get through the rest of the news first. Bitcoin lending platform Lava announced Series A led by Peter Thiel's Founders Fund and Coastal Ventures. I really like the idea of Bitcoin lending. I think people are going to want to borrow against their Bitcoin a lot in the future. So anything facilitating that will be interesting. BlackRock starts to move much of its Bitcoin into different wallets, 600 Bitcoin each. People always want to report on that type of thing. And then finally, this was a pretty outrageous one yesterday. United Healthcare CEO shooting suspect Luigi Mangione meme coin runs to $50 million before pullback to 27 million. I don't know what we're doing here, guys. That is obviously part of the market and aggressively speculated on, I guess. That is what the market is suggesting. Okay, so that's the roundup from the rest of the space. Before we get into the main headlines, Legendary, is there anything catching your attention there? Anything you're interested in? Then I'll ask Raheem the same thing.
Yeah, definitely want to talk a bit about the quantum computing and about those 10 septillion years, which is what we call that number.
Okay.
Had to look that up. The interesting thing with that also was that NFT stats, or just stats, I still keep saying the old name. I had a post on that yesterday that went absolutely viral. I think got way more than 1 million views, 2.1 million views actually, asking that if anyone a lot smarter than us when it comes to quantum computing can explain what that means, if anything, for crypto. Given that this post went so viral, I expect that there were some great responses in that. So stats, going straight to you, what was the conclusion of the reply guys in there?
Man, this was just above my pay grade. Like, we're fucking. I had this tweet. I think this tweet was like the most viral one of my top 5 for sure. And you never know why a tweet goes viral. So if it was tweeted by a crypto hater, then or retweeted by like a big crypto hater, then you're gonna get a lot of those responses. I'd say the people who I'm kind of torn here. Like, I think there's a very broad consensus that there's very little risk to any of these systems over the next 5 years. I think when you have a product whose core use case is store value and long-term store value, like that, then when people are saying things like, well, it's good for the next 5 years, but in 10 years there's risk because of the speed with which AI and quantum computing are about to move, to me, that's not very comforting, because the only purpose of this asset is to be, not the only purpose, but pretty much is to be a long-term store of value. So 10 years out does feel like relevant. And yeah, so I don't know, but I'd say broadly speaking, the people in my life who I trust the most on stuff like this seem the least concerned, for whatever that's worth. And I wouldn't say it's worth that much, but yeah, there's a big old non-answer for all of you.
Legendary, what were your thoughts on that?
I'm absolutely not an expert. I have no idea about quantum computing. I obviously have read these comparisons. This has, I don't know, 10 qubits, and to crack the seed phrase, you need that many qubits, etc. So that much computing power. But the only thing where I feel that humans have been historically terrible at is forecasting the future. So I just don't know if we can extrapolate the speed of how fast these developments will actually come to market and how that works. I think we underestimated so many things. My favorite example still is the IBM one, which basically said there's never going to be a need for more than a couple dozen or a couple hundred computers over the whole world. That was back in the 60s. Same thing with the internet. So I have no idea, but I also don't really understand the tech, so I cannot confidently speak to that at all.
That's my worry too. Is it's not like, can this computer crack your seed code or your seed phrase, or take a public key and turn it into a private key? Like, the question is just, is the speed of change going faster than people expected? And if you combine the fact that the speed of change is going faster than expected with the fact that most people are saying that they expect quantum computing in 10 to 15 years to be strong enough to kind of really mess with the encryption on a lot of blockchains, like, to me, that isn't like the best kind of feeling to have in the back of your head. And I feel like that's more the risk than like this specific computer is going to do anything that we wouldn't want it to.
Yeah, I very much agree, and I like Legendary's thought process, which is like, in the absence of any technical knowledge in this thing, maybe the one of the most reasonable observations is that we tend to be quite bad at predicting that stuff. And given that the stuff is moving so fast, I don't know how much weight you'd be able to attach to someone saying confidently, yeah, we're good for 5 years, we're good for 10 years, like, don't worry about it. Like, how can we do that? I don't know. It's a bit of a worrying thing. So look, I think on this topic, Sam, did you want to come back in?
No, but I saw Whale go off mute.
Oh, okay.
Don't know if it was by accident. Whale?
Oh, it was by accident. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Let's leave that topic then, because basically we have no idea what to do. Raheem, do you have any final takes on this? Do you have a solution for us to solve our cryptographic issues?
I mean, to be honest, I think like crypto wouldn't be the only issue that we would be worried about. You're talking about healthcare ecosystems. You're talking about nuclear missile cores. I think this goes way deeper. But just to give like a positive spin on what Sam was saying, I think throughout history, if you zoom out from a scientific point of view, it's every time we've gone through some chaotic experience, that's when we build the innovation. Like, just to give you an example, Burj Khalifa is able to withstand a 9.9 Richter scale earthquake, but we only built that because we realized like, you know, buildings couldn't sustain. So I think like if you look at it from a science point of view, in forensics we used to talk about it all the time. There's no such thing as a perfect crime, but it's only when the criminals get smarter, that's when my industry would get smarter. So I feel like it's part of how we've evolved as human species throughout like history.
I like that. I think that's the tech optimist outcome. And I think I have heard some people talk about Bitcoin needing to be upgraded at some point in time. I don't, again, the technical ways of that, I'm not entirely sure. Stats, I think you wanted to come in here.
I was just saying that like makes me more bullish on a banking system's ability to defend itself, or on a nuclear, you know, or on a military. It does not make me more bullish on Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is the core of what we do, because Bitcoin is very change resistant, like extremely change resistant. Look how well Bitcoin Cash has done. Look how well anything that, like, the whole purpose is that it doesn't change. So that, again, naive person here, but that logic makes me much more positive on the Web 2 world. It does not make me more positive on Bitcoin in particular, because of how change resistant it is, and how many users there are, and how kind of like the whole purpose is that it doesn't change.
I'd say
like one of the key selling points.
The counterpoint to that, though, is that it never had to change in front of a basically existential threat. So that might be different.
Sure, but when it's been asked to change over things that would make it clearly better, it has fully resisted.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting stuff. We will, I mean, I guess we'll monitor it, but it doesn't look like we're going to come up with the technical solution in the next 5 minutes anyway. So let's keep it moving. Appreciate that insight, because it was something which did run through everyone's minds yesterday. So definitely wanted to touch on it. Before we get into the main headlines, or maybe we're around time, but I think let's get into the main headlines first. Actually, we'll talk about where our attention is going a little bit later, I think. Look, I think the main thing on people's minds today is probably Magic Eden. Binance listing was announced this morning. Pre-markets were trading up. Going to pass over to Rahim to give us a little bit of a breakdown here. What's the deal, Rahim? What are you seeing? What are you liking about it? What can we expect?
Well, as everyone knows, it's the 10th of December, which is when we are expecting the Magic Eden TGE as per their announcement. Jack Liu, who is their co-founder and CEO, put out a tweet, which to be honest, I feel very bullish on the whole Magic Eden ecosystem, just like reading it. I feel like it has like a very hopeful tone to it, where he's just talking about that the next version of Magic Eden is going to look like an on-chain Binance. And I think that's like a very strong statement to kind of make. Like, you know, we've been talking in the space about how these centralized exchanges are losing that power. And we hope that in some ways that I don't think our industry should rely on Binance and Coinbase kind of leading the industry. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have some people leading the pack, but I feel like instead of one or two people, I would want a whole group of people kind of do that in different ecosystems, right? And then, like, you know, he was speaking about like, you know, you'll be able to earn Magic Eden through your daily use of Magic Eden products. There will be rewards for contributing to our ecosystem without directly using our products. So I'm assuming this is something going to be regarding content creation or just like bringing more eyes and awareness. But I like their approach of trying to expand the ecosystems. They obviously have been heavily on the fungible side, especially on Bitcoin. So I think that's very interesting to see with the Binance listing. And I'm curious to hear you guys like your thoughts. It's interesting how, like, I made up this tweet earlier. I think like Solana as an ecosystem is so wholesome, for a lack of a better word, because I feel like everyone's very supportive of each other. And I think one of Solana's biggest product is Magic Eden, and they are getting listed on Binance. And you had entire chains like Blur that did not have that impact and stuff. So I'm curious to kind of like for you guys to talk about the comparison in some way, you know?
I like it. Thanks so much for the breakdown, Rahim. Maybe just a few more details on like the kind of reaction to this. Again, we always caution on pre-market trading prices because they tend to not be entirely reliable. But on Whales Market, it was Magic Eden. The tokens were trading at $5 earlier this morning, and a little bit after the announcement, they went as high as $6 something. Now they seem to be back down to about 5.8, 5.55 on the screen that Legendary is sharing. So that's how the price kind of activity is playing out. That puts it at a $5.5 billion FDV. We spoke about price a little bit yesterday, comparing it with maybe Tensor and Blur. However, question for you, Legendary, before we ask some other questions. It looks like we have Tiff from Magic Eden Foundation with us as well, so we'd love to ask them some questions about this. The question, I guess, is that the wrong comparison? Like, we're trying to look into the market and look for some comparisons, and you're looking at Blur, which is an NFT marketplace, which maybe some people think of Magic Eden at the moment. And then you're looking at Tensor, which is the Solana NFT go-to marketplace at the moment, although they've now got Vector as well, which is like a meme coin trading app as well. You know, this on-chain Binance narrative seems to be a much bigger vision, right? And it's one that Hyperliquid is almost leaning into as well, although they've got an L1, which is kind of part of that package and causing it to have maybe a bigger vision and a bigger valuation too. What's your thought there?
I think it's...
Hey. Go ahead.
Sorry, let me just go first, and we'll get to you in a second. I think the interesting, or the comparison that I would look at is more what Blur and Blast did, with not necessarily because they're doing the same. That's not where I'm going at, but because they went kind of with a 2-token strategy for Blur and for the Blast ecosystem, and now you have Magic Eden who are launching 1 token, are basically extending and expanding the capabilities of what they want to do. In conjunction with that, what I honestly liked more than the Binance listing was the Upbit listing, because that Korean exchange is still on the rarer sides of actually wanting to list things, and even more so if they are listed on day one. But I do think that there is definitely a place for the call it the on-chain Binance. If you look back at the last cycle, you had to go to a centralized exchange way more often. And last cycle, I was definitely one of the persons who went to my centralized exchange to swap between ETH and BTC when I wanted to do that. Honestly, most of the time now I'm using the Magic Eden wallet for that, because it's just so simple to do that I prefer to stay on chain. Yeah. And there's a couple competitors who are trying to establish themselves in that niche, but there's not really more than a Binance, like even an everything app, like the one-stop shop. I told you when, some of my friends basically got onboarded this cycle and started with meme coins, and they were like starting on the Solana side of things. They were trading with Photon and other bots. To them, Solana was Photon. It just equaled a single site, one-stop shop, one page. When they wanted to explore Base, they asked, like, what's the website for Base? I don't know. And they had this like mentality to go user experience first. And it's, I think, the mentality that is the right one to think about that and have this one-stop shop, because we need to kind of like move away from this thinking of rite of passage. When you get onboarded to crypto, you need to get rugged, you need to be scammed to like become a part of us and be part of the community, to actually wanting to onboard people and provide them with a simple experience, which I definitely think is the way to go with that.
I like it. Yeah, look, I think that vision is something which a lot of people are going for. We just mentioned Hyperliquid as well. We've mentioned Azura before. Infinex, I think, are also trying to be this on-chain Binance. But would love to maybe throw to Tiff. I believe it's the first time you're with us. Welcome to the stage with us. Maybe a quick introduction on yourself and what you guys are looking to achieve. We've obviously been speaking about this drop as part of this like bigger vision, which maybe a lot of people haven't been aware of as much. Maybe you could speak to that bigger vision of being the on-chain Binance.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. So first of all, just wanted to introduce both Matt and I. Matt is he's a speaker as well. So he's the overall director for ME Foundation, and I'm supporting all the go-to-market. We can't actually stay that long because, we have to get ready for TGE, which is going to be in at 2 p.m. GMT.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready in 1.5 hours.
Oh, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we've got you. I think you cut out for a second, but we heard you. TGE in 1.5 hours.
Yeah. At 2 p.m. GMT. I guess, we can't comment on any of the price action stuff. But what we can share is just the overall thesis for the token. So this idea of on-chain applications is something that is gaining like more and more steam. If you think about like major tokens in the last few years, right, a lot of the tokens have been about infra, or like they've been chains, or they've been like ZK infrastructure, like all these things that don't directly touch users, but are more like B2B kind of businesses. And not to say that those things are bad, right? Like obviously, you know, we need like really good infra in order for blockchain to succeed. It just, in the last cycle, we've seen like Solana, for example, be like a huge kind of bright shoot, right? But the idea is like more and more people are going to come into blockchain. We see like a lot of new retail even just coming in through meme coins now, and they're going to need one place to trade. And there needs to be like better decentralized applications that can help like be the on-ramp or the entry point for these new crypto retail users. Historically, when people enter crypto, they use centralized exchanges, right? And those businesses are also great, right? They've helped crypto expand a lot. But we believe the future is going to be on-chain, meaning like we have this overall thesis that eventually, maybe it'll take some time, right? But we think most users are going to enter crypto directly from on-chain experiences because it's the most seamless, it's the purest way of actually accessing crypto. There are no like middlemen, there are no intermediaries, and it's just allows people to trade like more quickly, more seamlessly, and they will basically have full autonomy over their digital assets, which is like the point of crypto altogether, right? So if we believe in the thesis of crypto, naturally you could also believe in the thesis of on-chain, that like on-chain applications will be the home for crypto, and they will be the dominant home for crypto. And so this token basically represents the power of those on-chain apps. So what's going to be like the future of crypto? Number one is it's going to be cross-chain, like applications are going to be cross-chain. I think like there is no really room for anyone believing that any one chain is going to dominate crypto in the future. There are a lot of people who love Solana. There are a lot of people who love ETH. There are a lot of people who love Bitcoin. And Magic Eden is one of those apps that actually, one of the very few apps, if not the only app, that's able to unite ecosystems across all of those chains, right? So that's number one. It's like, we believe the future of apps are going to be cross-chain. Number two is we believe the future of apps are going to be mobile. So right now, most people do everything on their desktop, right? I think like we all remember memes of people like taking their laptops to the gym to do trades. We can now see, even in the last few months, a lot of new mobile apps, really like simple, beautiful mobile apps have started to emerge. And so Magic Eden also has a fully mobile app on Android and iOS. And then number three is just end-to-end, right? So the idea of if it's mobile and if it's cross-chain, you should be able to help a user on-ramp, manage all their digital assets, trade whatever they want, and also like, you know, use that as a way of entering crypto. And so just to summarize, number one, it's like cross-chain. Number two is mobile. Number three is like fully end-to-end, meaning the wallet is also part of the experience, right? Currently, we have this experience where on crypto, you have like wallets companies, and then you have like application companies, right? But if I was to say, hey, in order to use TikTok, you have to like download this other app and you log into that app in order to access TikTok, like that is like an untenable long-term way of like, you know, people using crypto, right? So that is how early we are. But I believe you'll see all the major apps start to have their own embedded wallets. So basically, the token is that thesis. And so there is no direct comp for ME as a token. It's not really any of those like single chain marketplaces. It's not any, you know, it's not any of the smaller trading applications. And so we really think we're in a league of our own. And yeah, thanks for listening to me talk about the token.
Appreciate it. I think the on-chain thesis is one that a lot of people will get behind. I think there's a lot of people moving in that direction, and I think there's a broad amount of support for that. So I think that's really cool. One specific comment on the, you know, kind of trying to house as many users as possible who want to interact in a safe way. Me and Legendary have been speaking all the time. I think Rahim as well knows. As soon as we want to convert to Bitcoin, like the Magic Eden wallet is the place to go to do that. There's no easier way to just chuck your USDC from whatever chain into one place and convert to Bitcoin. And I think you've been crushing in that respect. But one question I have on this, on the vision, which is to house everyone, I think one of the clear observations that's happened in the last year or two is that for whatever reason, it seems to be quite difficult to house people from different chains in one house. Like Solana or Solana NFTs have been very much on Tensor, for example. And I know Magic Eden is there as well, but I feel like at least at one point in time, it was dominated by Tensor. Blur very much dominated on ETH. And I think Magic Eden, certainly maybe on the main, maybe they were doing other stuff, but broadly ordinals was the thing that really kicked Magic Eden onwards and kind of grabbed everyone's attention for Magic Eden. So do you how do you see that moving forward? Do you think there's distinct cultures that mean that it's harder to all be housed in one place, or is there a particular way that you intend to like gather everyone under one house, basically?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. Like, okay, so let's imagine 5 years from now. Imagine trying to onboard your normal friend into crypto. There's just no way you're going to be like, hey, you're going to go to this site for this chain, you're going to this site for this chain. And then basically every chain having its own like wallet and app layer is going to be basically untenable. And if you look at the long run, right, I think what you're talking about is volume. But in the very long run, like what do businesses value the most? They value users and revenue. So whether or not like chasing volume to us is kind of like, it's kind of like a impossible goal, because first of all, in crypto, some of the volume is like not even organic, right? And so I think for platforms like Magic Eden, also like keep in mind, like I'm at the foundation now, so I can't directly speak on behalf of Magic Eden, but the goal here is really just to get as many users across ecosystems as possible. And the more users you onboard, I think in the long run, people will just value simplicity. They'll value simplicity and convenience. And that is the overall thesis. But in terms of, I think like user stats, I mean, Magic Eden's mobile app has like 300,000 monthly active users. The desktop app overall has like over 500,000 MAUs. So I think in terms of like the strength of the business, it's doing pretty well. And you know, just to speak about like why is it worth it to go cross chain, right? Like why even do this? If you think about it from a business perspective, it's like diversification. You have like, you know, maybe when Magic Eden began, right, it had like 2 sources of revenue. It had like Launchpad, right, and then it had like Solana NFTs. And now because Magic Eden is on like what, over 10 chains, like by the end of the year, it's going to be like, I don't even remember the numbers, like 15 chains or something like that. That means that Magic Eden is like a very stable business and can like kind of take all the volatility of crypto, and has like, you know, maybe you take the number of chains and multiply them by 2, assuming they all have Launchpad. And then if they have like a Launchpad business, an energy business, and token trading business, like what you are looking at, you know, we are not so worried about the short-term volume share of any one particular chain, but just building a very strong aggregate business. And then the foundation, right, and the token represents the protocols that power that business.
That's super interesting. Do you have an expectation, or do you have any goals as to the proportion of how that business develops? So like obviously there's like the NFT side of things, then you've got the token side of things, you've got the Launchpad side of things. How do you expect that to play out moving forward, or what would be your intention?
Yeah, I can't speak to like Magic Eden strategy, but what is, I think if you look at what they've been announcing, the big bets that Magic Eden are making are, number one, the mobile app, right, to have like another surface area where people can trade on the go. And 2 is not stopping the investment in NFTs, but also including adding the investment into fungible tokens. So now you can do cross-chain swaps on Magic Eden mobile app, but there will be like increasingly more token native, like mobile native token trading experiences on both desktop and mobile.
Okay, that's very good. As we said, that's something we've been using quite often ourselves. Appreciate your time, Tiff. If you want to hang around, we'll probably keep talking about this for a little bit, and would love to hear some more thoughts from you. Wanted to throw to Whale immediately. Whale, I know you've been covering this stuff a lot. You're super excited. You have never lost faith in the NFT side of our airdrop. What are your thoughts on it? What are your expectations?
Yeah, for sure. I think you guys already nailed it. Like Magic Eden has become like more than just a single chain marketplace. Of course, we have Solana, we have Ethereum, as you said, where they don't have like a ton of volume, but still they added it. And back when they did, they had partnerships with a couple of projects. Ordinals, I think, is a big one. Runes, I think, is another big one with a lot of potential. So they're like in a lot of different ecosystems. So I'm excited for how the token launch will will do today. I think it will do well. I also think like a lot of the comparisons we had with other marketplaces and their token launches in the past, they launched through different market conditions. As I said, they have different different products. So I think they will do pretty well. I don't think it will, I see people throwing around $50 valuations per me. I don't think that will happen, but I think they will do well. I think they did really well this year, and yeah, that will be my take.
I like it. I think that's probably one of the key takeaways from our discussion on the show yesterday, as well as this discussion today, is that maybe we don't know that the traditional marketplace comparison is the right comparison necessarily, because that's probably quite limiting in this sense. We do want to cover maybe a couple of other things, but I want to go to Bongo first. Bongo, welcome to the stage, my friend. I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're well. One of my favorite ordinals and runes bull posters. How are you doing, my man? What are your thoughts on Magic Eden coming to market today?
Yo, first of all, we haven't talked since Thread Guy Dump, all of us for the LA Cabal. And I'm glad to see the European and Asian crew doing spaces before America wakes up. This is the actual alpha of the day. In terms of Magic Eden, dude, I'm expecting a 10 to 50% rotation to Ordinals and Rune. It looks like people have been buying already, and the bags has been pumping. But I'm expecting massive inflows, especially on the Rune side of things. Ordinals in the past, they used to be fade. Then they had a massive run. By now they had a couple, and Runes hasn't had a massive run yet. So that's what we're waiting for here.
Bongo, I hope you're right, man. Everyone keeps telling me runes are going to run, and they're not running in the way that I need them to run. So I'm hoping you're right there for sure.
That's how every good run begins, right? Like when everyone is desperate, when people has been patient for a long ass time, and you only have diamond heads. What the runes community has right now is what none other community has, which is a strong, hungry community that's not full of jitters. They've been holding the bag since the halving. They've been making new memes, and they've been in the timeline 24/7, just pushing the narrative. And eventually it will click. The AI ecosystem and meta came around a few weeks ago. It's at 5 billion market cap overall. The Runes ecosystem is below 2 billion. That's just disrespectful. And it won't stay like that for a long time.
I know you are definitely in the trenches doing that, so we appreciate you for your service. I do think as well with runes, when Bitcoin starts to move, that conversation about it being very undervalued versus Bitcoin always becomes one. Bitcoin's obviously been like chilling out a little bit now, around 100K. If that really moves again, I think we see them potentially move. But Legendary, I wanted to come to you here on some potentially interesting strategies. Like one of the things you've been diving into a lot recently is what to do with large amounts of tokens when you want to try to provide liquidity. Like I know you've got some kind of interesting strategy to share here. Take it away.
Yeah, I've been thinking about what to do with the TGE from an LP side of things, because obviously it's going to be a high volume, high volatility event. You will have people who want to sell their airdrops. People who will want to buy the token. I'd also expect with the volume that is to come that Solana will be a bit overwhelmed with everything that's going on with the claim process. And Fabiano, Solana has been sharing a interesting strategy for Meteora that I think is worthwhile at least thinking about. So how is he playing that? There is already a pool that has been set up for Magic Eden and Sol with a 5% base fee. Obviously, also you have a Meteora dynamic fee, which is depending on the volume and volatility of a token. And the strategy that Fabiano is going for with this one is an interesting one, because he wants to play it a single-sided with Solana only. That means not providing liquidity with both Magic Eden and Solana, with the thesis being that it might be a bit challenging to claim your Magic Eden token, and until this will be resolved, there's going to be even more volatility and volume on the token. So basically, the strategy that he is setting up here is to DCA into the Magic Eden token to buy that with Solana and earning fees in both Magic Eden and Solana by doing so. And obviously this dynamic fee, because it's such an expensive pool, will decrease over time. It will probably be at the start higher than the 5% that is set at. And once the claim works, this is kind of your hedge for the strategy. If you want to hedge, you can obviously sell the tokens that you claimed. But it's interesting to see how a lot of the times liquidity pools, especially with high volume, high volatility events, especially also with the meme coin trading side of things, where there's just not enough liquidity to one clip out of your position, started to be used more and more to DCA in or DCA out of tokens. And I think that's an interesting approach that I'm probably going to play around with myself. Not sure if I'm going to join this pool. I'm going to look at another one, but I just wanted to bring that to the attention that that's an additional way of how you can look at liquidity pools to not provide two-sided, but also one-sided liquidity and the thinking behind that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I like the idea of just sometimes just not pressing the sell button completely and setting it all in one go. Depending on what your strategy is, I think that's an interesting option. So very, very grateful for you sharing that, Legendary. Rahim, circling back to you, you started off this segment. Any final reflections on what you've heard? We spoke about the vision of it being kind of the on-chain Binance. We heard Tiff speak about the various ways they're trying to achieve that, why it's important to go cross-chain and not be not be limited to one. Any final reflections before we move on?
Yeah, I absolutely love what she was talking about, and you've seen Magic Eden do this throughout the space, right? They were the ones who listed ApeChain NFTs. They have the Monad ecosystem there as well. So I really like the fact that we are trying to bridge, because I feel like everyone else is like so PvP in our space. And I think our industry is one of the only places where, like in the Web2 world, if Apple does well, it doesn't like really help like Microsoft ecosystem per se. But I feel like because we are so early into the crypto world, and even if you're looking at it from a market cap point of view, that I feel like any product, any chain winning is actually a win for all of us. So I love the fact that they're taking that approach of including like other chains, and they've had this ethos not just now. So the whole on-chain Binance, I know it's a buzzword now, but they're not using it as a buzzword. You've seen them kind of do this throughout the space. I also loved something that Tiff said, I don't know if that's what it stands for, but that I feel like in previous cycles, every time I would have like a normie trying to buy crypto, I would tell them to go through a centralized exchange, and that's the norm we've kind of accepted. But and going back to what Legendary was also saying, that I feel like we should be moving to a world where we shouldn't be saying that it's a rite of passage to get like rugged, to get scammed, but also we should be onboarding them directly on chain. So I love the whole wallet ecosystem. I love that we're kind of pivoting into that, because one of my biggest worries with like this whole ETFs and institutions coming is obviously losing the decentralization element of crypto on its own. The fact that we are able to hold on to that and get retail into it, I think it's a massive win-win for our space.
Very much agree with that. And Oxy, just wanted to shout that out from the YouTube comments, made that fantastic point saying Tiff talks like she has talked to a lot of normies about this over the past month.
Yeah, got that message very much locked down. I agree. I think the challenge, that for whatever reason, it does seem to be fairly challenging to usher people from different chains into one house, because I think to be honest, I think a lot of people have done a really good job on their chain, kind of establishing some type of culture and establishing routines based on actually good products. Like Blur is actually really good for ETH NFTs, for example. Specifically the perpetual lending thing that's built on the back of Blur, which is called Blend, is really, really good. Like there's actually no competitor for that at the moment. And if you want to look at NFT price, and then you also want to check the loan market on some of these premium NFTs, like you can't really do that anywhere else. It just makes sense to flip between that price and the lending market straight after. I think Tens have done a good job as well when it comes to, creating that culture on Solana specifically. Now, again, maybe the vision longer term is that one of those chains isn't going to be enough and you have to go bigger. But I do think that people have done a reasonably good job of establishing some culture. And that is, I think, sometimes what keeps people. So great discussion. Very, very interested to see how this plays out. I think we are now 65 minutes away from the TGE, so we will not be online for that, but we will be, well, we won't be on the show for that, but we'll be keen to see how that goes. We've got 5 minutes left of the show today. Just for people who are new here, see we've got a lot of new people. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We cover everything to the NFT market, the crypto market, the airdrop opportunity market, sometimes the quantum computing market. If it's coming after our bags, we cover all of this stuff every single day on Twitter video, and YouTube. So do check us out, subscribe if you like how it's going. Last 5 minutes, we've got a couple of potential directions to take it. I think the Movement Labs drop yesterday, Legendary, might be a good way to go. Then we can maybe just reflect on anything else that's catching our attention at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like the Movement Lab TGE that went above a $10 billion FTV took many people by surprise. Saw it multiple times on the timeline expressed that people were not aware of what it exactly is. So maybe a quick primer on what Movement Labs is.
Yeah,
it is the first integrated blockchain network, is how they describe themselves, integrating the security of move and parallel execution through a zero-knowledge rollup. To put that in simpler ways, what that means and what the practical use case for that could and would be, is basically you have a blockchain like Sui, like Aptos, which by default are not compatible to speak to the EVM blockchain, so the Ethereum virtual machine. And Movement Labs is working on making those two blockchains, or those multiple blockchains, being able to communicate with ETH as well, being EVM compatible, and building the tech for that. And that token came to market yesterday. Is currently trading at a $1.75 billion market cap, a $7.7 billion FTV, and it had a massive spike up after the airdrop claim went live, where it shot up all the way to $12.5 billion. And there's been some a bit more skeptical commentary on that coming from Was Crypto, who's a prominent crypto commentator, who has been saying that it seems like the secret ingredient for the move up only technology is just a little bit of crime. The airdrop claims allegedly were paused, and an ETH fee had been added to even be able to claim that. This is how it translated to the chart, where it went again from that $8 billion FTV point all the way up to the $12.5 billion before it started corrected down again. So also the additional commentary being made that the team allegedly had made at that point in time $200,000 just from the claims, just from the fee associated with that. Again, that's something that we have not done an investigation into ourselves. We're just reporting what has been reporting, and we thought it was worthwhile to bring to the attention, also from the standpoint of what Movement Labs even is, because it seemed to have passed quite a few people, and quite a few people have missed what this company is actually working on.
100%. Thanks so much for the summary, Legendary. I think it's really important to get on top of some of these other ecosystems. I feel like maybe Berachain, maybe Monad have a bit more of the attention. Maybe people who are traditionally on NFT Twitter are aware of those ones a little bit more. But Movement's really cool. And of course, as soon as we started talking about this, Funky shot up with his hands. I know he was a fairly early investor. Funky, welcome to the stage, my friend. Give us the quick minute TLDR on why you think this is a successful launch, or why you invested in this, just so people get a sense of what we're talking about here.
GM fam. Yeah, I mean, I know there's not a lot of time, but the language, I think, is going to be hugely important. If not this cycle, it will be in the next cycle. It's far more secure than EVM, right? Like, you can't have reentrancy attacks and all these other things because it's an object-oriented code versus account-oriented with EVM and Solidity. But beyond that, I really believe in, I'm a fan of betting on founders, whether that's in traditional equities or whatnot. Rushi and Cooper, these two young bucks are awesome founders. Like, Cooper literally sold his car to make payroll at one point, because these two kids started in a college dorm just with this dream of uniting the two movement languages, because Aptos and Sui run different consensus mechanisms, even though they're both based on the Move language. And then they got the idea of building this on an AVEX subnet so they could tap into that EVM liquidity and let those two different consensus mechanisms between the Move language talk. I've kind of been big on this. I've mentioned it before on the show. I knew that Movement was going to be an absolute cook just because of the community. Their Discord is constantly bonkers. And it's something that I saw all the way through. I regret not doing the testnet because we were invested in that very first pre-seed round, but just I would really pay attention. If you guys are not really up on Movement, get on Movement, look at what they're doing, and just pay attention to Rushi and Cooper in particular. Rushi was at permissionless on an L2 panel, absolutely dropping bombs and destroying everybody that was on there with Arbitrum and so on and so forth. So really, really great young kid, very talented people. They're exactly the kind of founder stories we need more of in crypto, and highlight these young people and hold them up. Because they even said, they told the VCs, take a back seat. They're not letting anybody stake locked tokens, which is so common. We've talked about this multiple times on the show before. They said no one gets to stake their locked tokens and just feed off the APY. So, you know, investors like us, the Kingdom, we have a 12-year cliff, 0% TGE, then 36-month linear release. So it's going to take a long time to even get our tokens, but we're absolutely bullish on what these young guys are doing.
Love it, Funky. Just a very quick clarification. You said you have a 12-year cliff. That is that's a mistake, right?
12-month clip, my bad.
I was like, 12 years, god damn, that's a very long term.
36 month linear release after that.
Yeah, I was like, great, gotta clarify that. Look, appreciate it, and congrats on making that investment. It looks like that's going to work out very, very well for you. I'm glad we could bring that information to everyone, because I know for a fact that people Movement has definitely slipped people by a little bit here. Definitely check it out. Be aware of what's going on there. We will keep reporting on things of that nature, as well as things like the Magic Eden drop. We are 60 minutes away from it, and we'll report on it tomorrow. Remember, guys, that is our show done for today. We do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for 1 hour live on Twitter Spaces, X Video, and YouTube, and Apple and Spotify podcast too, if you ever prefer to catch up on your media in that way. Thanks so much to Legendary and Rahim, as always, for co-hosting with me. We had a bunch of legends up on stage today. Thanks to Stats, Whale, Bongo, Funky, Oxy, and anyone else who contributed. Have a wonderful day. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.